Hey, what's up everyone? My name is Trent. This is Rams Talk. Welcome back. Took quite a hiatus after the Super Bowl to just decompress, but I'm back. The Rams, NFL and the Rams, everything, free agency, all of this stuff is picking up and the juices are flowing again and feeling good about football again. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Glad to have everyone back here. You know, I kind of liken it to, you know, you've been at work and it's been like a super stressful month or two at work, and then you take like a 2-week vacation and you don't check in at work. You totally disconnect, and then you come back and you're back at work and you're just kind of like, you're physically there, but you're still not mentally there. So that's kind of what this has been like a real disconnect. But you know, I've been keeping tabs and monitoring everything and checking in with all the writers and Rams Twitter and YouTube and everything, and just to keep the pulse on it. And it's crazy. It's like there's really never any downtime. And, you know, I want to pick up really like where I left off, or where the Rams left off. And before I get to that, if you're on Twitter, please follow me at Real LA Rams Talk. That's really where all the juices are flowing. I used that twice already, but that's where a lot of the stuff is coming through. So a lot of good stuff on Twitter. Hit me up there. That'd be great. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. I'm going to be I'm going to post a lot more content as free agency begins, I think on Wednesday, the 13th. I don't know if that's Wednesday, but it's the 13th. And then, you know, obviously leading up to the draft. But I really wanted to start off with just kind of on the heels of the Super Bowl, Todd Gurley. I know there was a report that came out saying that Todd Gurley has arthritis in his reconstructed knee. You know, when he had that ACL tear his last year of college before he was drafted. So it was a source that said he has arthritis in that knee, but there was never like a doctor that came out and said, so I diagnosed this arthritis, and this is what it means because this is where the placement of the arthritis is in the knee. I've heard a lot of people kind of talking about what does that mean? Oh no, Todd Gurley's done, arthritis in the knee. But a lot of doctors have said that it's impossible to really diagnose the tread or the wear and tear on Gurley's knee without actually seeing the x-rays or the MRIs to see where it is, how advanced it is and whatnot. So when you just hear there's a report that he has arthritis in his knee, obviously not a word you want to hear, but it really all depends on the severity and where it is. I mean, if it's like early arthritis on a place that's like not that bad or preferable of the knee, then, you know. So I think what this means more than anything is the dependence that they're going to have on a second running back. And Todd Gurley's averaged like 250 yards or carries per season, about 80 receptions per season. So, I mean, if he has to bump it down to 200 carries and 50 receptions, you know, and just kind of monitor and kind of keep him rested a little bit more throughout the season, you know, that's fine. I think that's totally doable. I mean, he's 24. You know, he's not going to just go into the tank in 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. I mean, essentially with Todd Gurley, they just need to, it sounds terrible, but to get their money's worth while they have him, while they owe him guaranteed money. I mean, that really is what they need to do, because let's be honest, he's 24. The odds of him playing like he did the last couple years for the next 6 years is just not realistic in the NFL. It doesn't matter. Like Adrian Peterson is the exception to that. So I personally feel that his knee was as healthy as it is during the Super Bowl, and that just fell on Sean McVay brain farting on play calling and using Todd Gurley. So all that means to me is monitoring and resting Gurley a little bit more throughout the upcoming seasons, and either re-signing CJ Anderson or another capable number 2 back, whether that's Malcolm Brown. I like how Malcolm Brown's flashed. So that they really need to, that's something they're going to address. So we'll see if they do that in the draft or re-signing CJ Anderson. That'll be interesting. Another news and notes, Zach Taylor, the QB coach, he took the head coaching job of the Bengals. So another Sean McVay disciple, so to speak, has moved on to be a head coach. Matt LaFleur is the coach. He used to be the offensive coordinator of the Rams under McVay's first season there, and so he's now the head coach of the Packers. So Zach Taylor is gone, and I don't know who they've shifted into that role, but they still have everyone in place there. And then for me, the biggest move they could make during the offseason was getting Andrew Whitworth back. Because that entire offense, Goff, Gurley, those two guys are able to do what they do because of the blocking that they have up front and the continuity and the consistency of that offensive line. Joe Noteboom could be really good. I have no doubt that he could be really good. But I'd rather have Andrew Whitworth for one more year. That to me was the biggest shoe to drop, because if he doesn't come back, then now what are they going to do at left? Okay, now they have Noteboom, right? Then you have, they cut Sullivan to free up cash. I think that was wise. Brandon Allen steps into that. Now you're going to have 2 second-year players playing arguably the most important role outside of position outside of quarterback, and then center. So I mean that's a huge leap. And then you have Roger Saffold as a free agent. So that kind of leads me into my second thing is, so you have Whitworth back. You release Sullivan, saving money. So now you have Allen, presumably would step in there. That's why they drafted him last year. And now you have Saffold as a free agent. Now, in my opinion, out of all the guys, Fowler and Sue, that they have to replace, or even Mark Barron, who they have to replace, I feel that keeping Saffold is the number one priority. And the reason why I say that is the continuity. I mean, this offensive line was arguably the best offensive line in football the last 2 years. And you don't want to go get away from that at all. I mean, it's an anomaly. It really is. Now, the only way I guess I would be comfortable with Roger Saffold leaving is if another team came in and just blew him away with an offer that the Rams could not match. You know, whether it's like a couple additional years or way more guaranteed money. You know, I mean, he's 30-ish, something like that. So, you know, I don't see teams going crazy long term. But, you know, if the Rams are offering like a 3-year deal and someone comes in with like a 5-year deal, and that could be with more guaranteed, I mean, that could be the real backbreaker. But I would prioritize him over anyone else that the Rams have to replace. And Saffold's a lifelong Ram. So, and then the news of that, so like guys are being released every day, like we did with Sullivan, like we did with Barron. I'll talk about that in a minute. But so one of the teams in the NFL that has a massive amount of like $90 million to spend are the New York Jets. But they just traded with and so a lot of speculation was that Saffold would go to the Jets. I mean, the Jets always take our guys, Trumaine Johnson, but Zach Stacy. But they just made a trade with the Raiders for Kalichi Osemele, who's a guard who's a pretty good guard for the Raiders. So I think that took them out of the Saffold running. That the Jets were the team that I was actually most afraid of in terms of poaching Saffold from the Rams. And I think they're also going to be hot in for Dante Fowler Jr. So I could see them also making a big bid on Dante Fowler. But the fact that the Jets are now presumably out of the running for a guard is great news for Rams fans, that they don't, you know, there's one less suitor, probably the number one potential suitor out there. So there you go. You have, so that's the offensive line. Let's keep Saffold, just Allen in for Sullivan. Done deal. Offense is set. What, you know, obviously who's the other back with Todd Gurley. So then on the defense, this is where there's been the most fluctuation. So as we know, they let go of Mark Barron. And I really want to say, like, thanks to Mark Barron, I really thought he did a good job overall in his career with the Rams. I know last year I ripped him a lot, fans ripped him a lot, but he was coming off an injury. And it took him, you know, he didn't have a training camp or anything like that. So it took him 3 or 4 games to really get into the flow. And in the playoffs, he was dynamite. Mark Barron was on top of it. I mean, I I just thought he wasn't great at stuffing the run and making the correct reads as an inside linebacker with the running backs, busting through the holes. But he really turned it on, and I got a tip of the cap to Mark Barron for everything he did as a Ram. But his cap hit was way too much for the production that he yielded. And they have Micah Kaiser as an in-house solution. I don't know how the coaches view Micah Kaiser, if he's really like the full-time guy, but I think that he'll definitely see a lot of reps. And it might kind of lessen the type of caliber of name that they're going to have to get for inside linebacker. But it'd be cool if Micah Kaiser was the guy. I mean, they're still going to have to build depth, so they'll still get someone. And then Fowler and Sue are the other two guys. And then what would just happen now with signing Eric Weddle, I think that was a masterstroke by Les Snead. So the safety pool of free agents is supposed to be pretty vast. There's a lot of guys that the Rams could get. But what they did is when someone's cut from a team before free agency begins, they're allowed to sign with other teams. So that the Rams pounced and just took him off the market, and he's half the price of Lamarcus Joyner, and their production was about the same. I mean, they played two different styles of safety. I'm not going to get too much into it now, but Lamarcus, they could bring him up and nickel a little bit, although it didn't really work out well against the Cowboys when it got burned by Amari, because they kind of realized that, the Cowboys did. But he has more coverage skills at the line than Weddle does, but Weddle has a bunch of other advanced metrics in his favor, especially in coverage and in deep coverage, and the amount of separation between he and the guy he was defending. And he's a great locker room guy. He's a fun guy. I remember watching him in San Diego. Even at the press conferences for Baltimore, he has a lot of spunk. So I think he's going to be a great fit, a great leader. And hopefully he stays healthy. He's 34. I'm not going to rip guys who are 34 because it's way younger than me. I'm not going to call them over the hill. But I thought that was a great get. And what that also does is that just that eliminates what you need once free agency begins and planning for the draft. So now, we're thinking, in the first round of the draft, the Rams will have to take. Oh, and there goes my Rams talk sign. Look at that. Technical difficulties. We thought the Rams would have to take a safety in the first round, but now they don't. So now I feel what the Rams are going to do, depending on who they pick up in free agency, a lot of ifs here, is they're going to go with outside rusher, like edge rusher or defensive tackle or inside linebacker. I mean, they're still going to need to build depth for the secondary, but also news today, Justin Houston was released by the Chiefs. And, I mean, he played in 12 games last year and had 9 sacks. The year before he had 9.5 sacks. So, I mean, that's way more than anyone had on the Rams. And so, I mean, he's 30 years old, but I could see him getting a deal. I think the Rams are going to really get these vets that have been released or hit the free agent market for a discount. But I mean, if they re-signed, let's just hypothetically say they re-signed Dante Fowler Jr., Roger Saffold. They signed Justin Houston, get a couple other guys, mid-range, lower-range guys, mix that in with the draft picks that they get, they're going to be set. A lot of also what we're going to see the Rams doing now is you got to think, because Les Snead is thinking about 2 years from now. So, they made the moves last year to get Peters and Talib, thinking of next year. Or not next year, but 2 years from now after their contracts are up. So Whitworth will come off the books after this year. Who else is coming off the books? There's someone else. Oh, Akib and Peters are coming off the books after this year. So they're going to have to replace their secondary. They're going to have to replace their left tackle. They'll have an in-house solution, but that also means money is going to be freed up. So a lot of these deals that they're making, the money that they're spending, the positions that they're choosing, it's not just for the next year for this title run, but they got to map it out for 2, 3, 4 years down the road, because they're going to have to give Goff an extension coming up. So it's going to be really interesting to see the type of contracts they give out to free agents, but still a lot of uncertainty. But I like the Weddle signing. Lamarcus Joyner's no hard feelings except for that missed coverage against Ted Ginn right before the call. By the way, F the Saints. Just got to say that. They're still crying. They're still crying. It's just insane how like little babies they are. That was grammatically incorrect, but you know what I mean. So, like the Weddle signing, thank you, John Sullivan, but, you know, it's time to go. Hopefully Brett Allen brings up. So stoked Andrew Whitworth re-signed. That's awesome, or just didn't retire. And so, like, let's just see what happens. I think they're going to keep Brockers, and he'll probably be the guy who gets cut after this season. So, yeah, just a lot of stuff going on. So I'm going to have another episode after free agency begins, maybe run down some names and just kind of vet that out of guys who they could get. But they have between, I want to say, around 35 mil or so to spend, and it will be fun. They can't lock a lot up into long-term deals because they're, like I said, going to have to extend Goff. So anyways, yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, one last thing. Antonio Brown. The signing with Antonio Brown really just reset the market for wide receivers. And then you slot like where Brandon Cooks is into that, and I'll get into that in another episode. But, you know, pretty good deal with Brandon Cooks. You know, younger, consistent, he's definitely not an alpha in the way that Antonio Brown is, but he's definitely not a diva in the way that Antonio Brown is. And you even look at Robert Woods in the production, he's making like 5-6 mil a year, and he's a bargain. Antonio Brown's getting like 18? So, and Cooper Kupp's getting like $1 million maybe. So like the Rams, like 3 receivers are making just a little bit more than what Antonio Brown is making. So it's a lot of value stuff. Le'Veon Bell, Jets might sign him. You know, he might set the market. You might look at in like 2 years and say, wow, Todd Gurley is actually a bargain at this. So a lot of interesting things going around contractually in the NFL. But anyways, it's just good to be back. I missed you guys. And I hope you liked this episode. I still haven't received total clarity on everything I want to say, but I just had to say something. Let you guys know I still am alive. Yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting month or so. Just getting back into real life. Had a garage sale. Those things are hectic, you know? Still feel like I could have another one. So much crap. Anyway, enough about me. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Find me on Twitter at Real LA Rams Talk. If you're Laker fans as well, yeah, that's just tough. But anyways, thanks for watching. Love you guys. Go Rams.